A majority of American voters plan to cast their ballots early or by mail this November. That's according to a new NBC News survey monkey poll. 52% of respondents say they will vote early. Of that number, 19% say they will vote in person, 33% by mail. And there is a clear divide when the results are broken down by party affiliation. 54% of Republicans say they will vote in person on Election Day, while just 22% of Democrats say the same. Meanwhile, 50% of Democrats say they plan to vote by mail, but only 18% of Republicans say they will do the same.